This just took a very ugly turn for the Toronto Raptors, as a lot has been made about the team's cap situation entering this summer and how this team has not been very competitive over the past couple seasons despite being very expensive. And now we look at the free agent market, we look at players around the caliber of guys that the Raptors have signed to long-term contracts. And there's a portion of the fan base that is worried about how this team is looking financially, the outlook is for the future, especially with the top guys that are locked in long term. And now we are getting rumblings about trades coming in that really are not advantageous for the Toronto Raptors in terms of on-court competitiveness, even if it does help our cap situation. So we're going to discuss what's going on with all these rumors and discourse, how the Raptors are really positioned now, looking at all the changes around the NBA, and why I personally am still in the belief there's a lot of hope for this Raptors young core. So lots of stuff to break down in this video, but before we do, folks, again, I want to appreciate every single one of you that have been tuning in the vids. You guys have been crushing it, but still, over 53% of our viewers have not hit the subscribe button just yet. I want to make sure you stay up to date with everything regarding this Toronto Raptors team, so make sure you won't want to miss a single thing. You hit that subscribe button because we are covering it all, especially as the Raptors get closer and closer to signing their next president of basketball operations. But let's dive into the news because there's been some interesting developments regarding this Raptors team. Now, I've been the most outspoken person, I feel, as to not wanting to trade RJ Barrett. I've not been in that camp. I've not been in that boat. I think he's a guy that can really take a nice leap. He took a leap every single season he's in the NBA, and I think he still has a lot of room to grow and develop out there across the league. And especially the contract he's under, I think it's very, very solid for this group. But the reality is the Raptors do have a cap situation on their hands that they do have to look at. I mean, Scottie Barnes making, $30-40 million, close to $50 million at the end of his contract. Brandon Ingram signed to a long-term extension, multiple years. You have Immanuel Quickley making that type of money. RJ Barrett, fairly expensive for the next 2 seasons. Jakob Poeltl signed an extension. There are a lot of guys at the top of this roster that are getting paid. So what do you do out there for the future of this team? What direction do you go in? Who do you keep? Who do you trade? What are your plans for this group? And a lot of people are calling for this decision to be made this offseason, and right now the Raptors kind of doubled down on their roster, which I'm very fine with. And given the trade market and what's going on outside the scenes, that's the boat I still want to remain in. However, there still has been some pressure on Bobby Webster in the front office to get some things done in regards to this situation about, hey, are you going to make some moves? Are you going to shake up? Are we going to really be this close to the tax if we are a team that, I think is still on paper very, very solid, especially in a wide open Eastern Conference. But the reality is they didn't make the playoffs last year. Adding Brandon Ingram, bringing back some health, which a lot of people just kind of ignore at this point. I think this team will be a lot more competitive this season, but it's a fair critique. It's a fair argument. It's something that I don't want to write off as something that's stupid. Now, some of the latest developments, some of the latest stuff, and you saw the thumbnail with Robert Williams, some of the latest stuff are things that I do not like. Because RJ Barrett, he's a guy that has been thrown out in trade rumors, reports. When the Raptors were hunting for a big fish, when they were trying to land these superstar guys, RJ Barrett's contract made sense to be thrown in some of those. I get it. But as a salary dump, if you're looking at this guy, in terms of RJ Barrett, his, quality of play. 21 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 35% of the three-point line, 40% on corner threes, just 25 years old. Yes, I get all the advanced stuff, and we can dive into that in a whole video, right? And, fit, he needs the ball in his hands, all of that. I get it. This is not a guy that is a salary dump player. I don't care what you say about him as his impact on the basketball. He's 25 years old, 21, 6, and 5. I don't take that. I don't accept that. If you want to reduce his role, sure, his stats will go. I think he'd be fully capable of still being effective out there on this team. So I'm in that boat. I'm in that camp. I'm saying all this. So why the heck is Robert Williams in the thumbnail? Well, essentially the Raptors are once again being tied, linked, and associated to being landing spots for players across the league. And Robert Williams is the name that's getting attached to this. Now, again, the odds aren't high. Why are we discussing? Why are we bringing this up? Well, earlier in the offseason, RJ Barrett, when he was getting floated around in trade rumors, floated around to different stuff, the Portland Trailblazers were the number 1 team that were linked to RJ Barrett, the most likely trade destination for RJ Barrett. They are the favorites to land him. Now, the Blazers have made some moves through the course of the offseason. They're very much a different squad, a different team than what they had at the start of the summer. They now have Drew Holiday. They now have Damian Lillard, who's going to be here for seasons ahead. But, right now, that's their kind of group. And they're trying to be competitive very, very soon. RJ Barrett fits that timeline, fits that mold, and they don't really want to, sell off different players. So they also have a glut at the center position now at this point, as you look at the guys that are currently out there on their roster, and essentially Robert Williams doesn't really fit in. They have Klingon, and they just drafted Hanson Yang. So Robert Williams is not really being played as a factor, and he's a very talented basketball player. Do not get me wrong. But if he is the return piece, and I get that he's cheaper, and I get that you could aggregate salaries, you get off his money quicker, he's an expiring contract, I get the financial side of things. The Raptors don't view themselves as competitive, whatever, right? I get that argument. And the Raptors could be in need of a backup center, depending on how you view Mamu Kelishvili, how Shamshay can develop, and all that. I'm pretty confident in the Shamshay and Mamu back line out there at the center position. But I digress. I'm not saying you're stupid if you think Robert Williams would be a nice piece to add to this team. In an RJ Barrett trade, I adamantly disagree. I get the salary dump aspect of it, but Robert Williams is not providing you that impact that you're hoping he does. This man has never been healthy. He's never been healthy. He had one season where his most healthy season, he played 61 games. 61 games, that is it. Last season, played 20 games for the Portland Trailblazers. The season before, played 6 games for the Portland Trailblazers. The dude was traded in the Damian Lillard trade, the first one. And has played 26 total games with the Portland Trailblazers the last 2 seasons. The season before only played 35 games with the Boston Celtics. The season before 61, 52, whatever. You get at least some run with the Robert Williams, and he was good back then. But Time Lord Robert Williams, he is too much of an injury risk. You have too many guys out here on this team that were dealing with injuries last year. We do not need to bring in someone to add to the mix that's just going to not play games for this Toronto Raptors group. And yes, he's a great shot blocker. Yes, he's a guy that you look at his stats, you look at his impact, you look at what he's able to do. Blocks shots, does a lot of things in the defensive end. Could be a really nice backup in theory, if healthy, for Jakob Poeltl. But we have guys that, in Mamu, in Shamshay, that would be better. And if you're salary double, get something for him. Get something better. It's that. And the thing that makes this worse, the thing that makes this tougher is if the Raptors do go in this direction, this is the reality of what the offers are going to be looking like for RJ Barrett. So the people are saying, hey, RJ doesn't fit. He's not a great guy or whatever, right? The people that are making those arguments, RJ Barrett does not have trade value right now. I get the Desmond Bane trade happened at the start. RJ Barrett does not have trade value right now. Why? Why is that the case? Well, you can look at a guy in Cam Thomas who statistically doesn't do the same playmaking, isn't the rebounder, is a lesser defender than RJ, is less efficient, whatever. But is a year younger and averaged more points per game, 24, 3, and 4. A bucket getter. I think I'd put Cam Thomas and RJ Barrett around similar values in the open market right now. Right? Similar values out there in the open market right now. And this dude cannot get paid. He's not getting signed. They're offering him a super cheap, 2-year in the teens, $1 million. Cam Thomas is not getting paid by the Brooklyn Nets, by really any team here now at this point, despite being a pure bucket getter for that group. A guy averaging 24 cannot get paid. This is a different NBA. This is a different landscape. The different things are valued right now, and I think these types of guys are being overlooked in terms of what they could actually provide to your team. But the reality is, RJ Barrett, these types of players are not being highly valued for their group. So that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're looking at. That's what we have to accept for this Raptors team. So if a trade's happening, it's probably going to be along the lines of this Robert Williams style deal, and I just do not like it. So I'm pushing the movement, folks. I'm pushing the movement. Do not trade RJ Barrett. Do not let it happen. I will be very, very disappointed if it does. But let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. You guys best thing as far as subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.